Hello, everybody. We're live here at the 2026 ASIANetwork Annual Conference. I'm Nick Tackes, one of the co-editors of ASIANetwork's upcoming Digital Resource Hub, and I'm joined here by Jason Kirk and Vikash Yadav, who are the authors of The Politics of India Under Modi, an introduction to India's democracy, economy, and foreign policy, published through Lever Press back in 2023. I'm so glad that you two are here joining me. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you bet. So a little bit about Lever Press. This is an imprint of the University of Michigan Press, is that right?
Michigan Publishing?
Michigan Publishing, an open access publication from start to finish. It has ASIANetwork guest editors as well as the general Michigan, or rather Lever Press acquisitions editor. And it's a great opportunity for ASIANetwork members who are thinking of open access publication. So I wanted to ask you two to share a little bit about the book and the writing process. Can you tell us first a little bit about the book?
You should start, because I have to credit you with initiating all of this.
Well, I think the book started as a project in part out of frustration at what was available for teaching undergraduates in a small liberal arts context. Especially, there's a lot of great books about the independence struggle, the early years through Indira Gandhi. They're just excellent books. Mm-hmm. And there are good books for scholars on Modi and what that's meant. But some of those books are just hundreds and hundreds of pages. And so they're too big for assigning in a small liberal arts classroom. Where
you're not going to put them on Christopher Jaffalo, kind of from the jump. Yeah.
It's a brilliant book, but it may not be right for most people. And on the other hand, like a lot of students, yes, Nehru is still very important. You have to go over Nehru. You have to go over Indira. You have to go over Rajiv. You have to go over the Congress dynasty, sure. Mm-hmm. But a lot of students really want to talk about Modi, and they want to talk about what's been happening since he came to power, since the BJP returned to power. Mm-hmm. And there are some books about India since 1980, things like that. But I think we wanted something that was digestible to our students, but that addressed a lot of the more recent events.
Right, and I guess I would add to that, we wanted to get some coverage of foreign policy and political economy and regional politics all in the same cover, which is also sort of a difficult thing to find in books intended for undergraduates.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of based on the ideas, the questions that our students pose to us, right? Like, is India now moving towards authoritarianism? What does it mean, that the BJP has returned to power, and it seemed to them that, when they look at the electoral map, it looks very much like everything is turning saffron. And part of what we were trying to say is, yes, the BJP has done very well in many respects, but that you need to kind of get a feel for what's going on below the federal level to really understand Indian politics. And so we created little sections on Bihar, on West Bengal, on Andhra Pradesh, to kind of bring out
Telangana,
and a little bit on Kashmir as well. These are things that if you understand them, then you begin to get that flair for actually things are more complicated at the local levels.
Right. Yeah, and I think and this has been a little bit of a lesson just from trying different things in teaching over the years to spark their interest in state level politics and regional variations within India. But you almost have to set them in the present a little bit and then see if you can backdoor how did West Bengal develop some of these political traditions and what's the legacy of left politics there? And, and Andhra Pradesh allows you to also trace some really interesting, sui generis in some ways, state level politics, but just explore themes like language and region as sort of vessels for political mobilization, but also the limits of that, when it runs up against, regional inequalities within what was India's first linguistic state and was supposed to have this sort of, coherence to it for those reasons. And I think it's just, it's also instructive to them to learn, you can also get them to take an interest in sort of comparative federalism without even realizing that that's what you're doing, right? And they sort of understand how India is a different kind of union than the United States.
Right. Yeah. I had a follow-up question kind of on that score. You write in the introduction that India is not a straightforward liberal democracy, nor is it what you call an illiberal electocracy. So I wonder, what does the distinctiveness of India do as sort of a case study for students in your classrooms?
I think that's a good question. I mean, I think like with the econ section, the economics sections, the sections on economic policy, what I think it helps students to see is what does the kind of strongman rules situation do? What kind of policies are being put in place? Like, let's talk about demonetization. Let's talk about what the administration does to prepare the ground for elections. And so that's where it gets complicated, right? Like, on the one hand, they do take very authoritarian decisions, very not well worked through decisions, like related to COVID, which we talked about, and demonetization. There was not a lot of preparation. So you see some of the strongman tendencies of we're gonna quickly resolve this problem that then cascades and creates a whole bunch of other problems. So there's that, but then it's wrong or incorrect, I think, for people to say, well, Modi's just neoliberal. Right, because one of the things you see is actually the state is expanding, and there's lots of welfare being pushed out just before the elections, which is why a lot of people vote for the BJP. The BJP delivers on gas cylinders usually. I don't know what's going to happen in the next few weeks. They deliver on kind of the things that are very important to a lot of households in India. And so you have to kind of say, well, that doesn't fit any neat category. And I think that's where we want students to be with, like, okay, I don't know what box to put them in. And if that's where they end up, I'm happy.
And you sort of, you're one of the things that you really brought to it in terms of the political economy themes was this legacy of statism, which we tend to associate with, sort of the left post-colonial state in India, but has been picked up by the Hindu right, and Modi's perfected this very personalized presentation and branding of statism, but it's still in a tradition, I guess, is part of what I guess we try to convey in the book.
Yeah, and it captures, I think, the idea that India is forming this strategic partnership with the United States, with Japan and Australia, what Shinzo Abe called the strategic diamond, or what most people call the quadrilateral security dialogue. I think that captures students' imagination as like, well, okay, they can begin to see this on a grand scale of containment and of a rising India with these ambitions. But then you also have to realize that India is still friends with Russia and does not want to abandon that friendship, which they cultivated over many decades. And that again creates this kind of complication of, well, they're not really in the Western camp, but also the idea that India is not just a proxy. India is too proud. And I think that takes students a while to really appreciate that this pride is across the spectrum. It doesn't matter whether it's Hindu nationalist or the center-left party. That India really feels that it has a destiny. And I think it's important for Americans to understand that, because then they can understand, all right, here are some of the problems that are happening between the US and India, And if we could just see it through Delhi's lens, we would at least understand why India gets insulted or why India gets upset
That's right.
On some of these issues. And the whole book is really just meant as a beginning conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We never wanted it to be the only book assigned. We all
Right.
actually thought of it as like, it's a module, it could fit into like a 2-week module, maybe a 3-week if you want to stretch it and supplement it. So we were always thinking in terms of it's part of a semester, not the whole thing.
Thanks so much for spending the time with me to talk about the book.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah, that was
having us.
really, yeah, thank you.